Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta.
And now chapter 15, Bhajan Pranali.
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta.
All glories to Sri Gadadhar and Lord Nityananda. All glories to the husband of Sita, Sri Advaita, and to all the devotees of Lord Gaura. The Lord said, Haridas, by your devotion you have received all knowledge available in the universe. All the Vedas are dancing on your tongue. All the conclusions of Scripture are in your speech. Now speak clearly about the rasa, or sentiment, or mellow of the holy name. How does the jiva get qualification for the rasa of the name? Haridas, in great bliss, said, through your inspiration, I will describe it. The highest, purest state, the perfection of the absolute truth, is called rasa. This rasa is not the emotions or sentiment of the material world, but is the inherent nature of the absolute pure. It is unlimited, full of bliss, and the greatest glory. The absolute truth reveals his variegated character through his energies, which are inseparable from his very existence. His energies create the variegated spiritual world, which is prerequisite to rasa. Through his spiritual energy, Krishna reveals his form, name, dham, and activities. The supreme truth is known as Krishna, with a Shyamasundara form residing in Goloka Dham, performing his sweet pastimes with his devotees. Thus, variety and rasa exist in the Lord due to his spiritual energies, which cannot be separated or differentiated from the substance of the Lord. In this way, the absolute truth remains supreme, whole, beyond duality, and simultaneously engages in a transcendental world full of beautiful forms, activities, and emotions. The shadow energy of the Lord's spiritual energy is called Maya. By the will of Krishna, this energy creates the material world outside of the spiritual dimension. Through his Jiva Shakti, he creates the innumerable souls situated between the material and spiritual worlds, similar in quality to Krishna, but infinitesimal in size. Because of their borderline quality, the jivas or souls are of two types, eternally bound jivas and eternally liberated jivas. Those who are eternally liberated are qualified as Krishna's eternal servants in the spiritual sky, and those who are eternally bound engage and suffer in the material shadow, away from Krishna. The jivas dwelling in the material world are of two types, those taking Krishna's name and associating with devotees, who will go to the spiritual world of rasa by the power of the name, and those who ignore Krishna and toil hopelessly for rasa in relation to inert matter.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
The gradual realization of rasa in the name is compared to the blossoming of a flower. The name is compared to a flower in bud when it is spread to the general mass of people in the world. When one realizes the beautiful form of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan through continual chanting of the name, that is compared to the partially opened flower. Continuing sadhana further, when Krishna's 64 qualities become revealed in the name, that is compared to the fragrance from the half-opened flower. When one realizes the eternal pastimes of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, the flower is in full bloom. Then, by the great mercy of the name, the original energies of Ladini or bliss and Samvit or consciousness belonging to the spiritual world, whose prime embodiment is Radharani, unite in the form of Bhakti Devi and descend upon the small jiva who possesses only a small portion of Ladini and Samvit energy. From the transcendental realm, Bhakti Devi reveals to the jiva the full rasa in the name, and by her mercy, the jiva takes on his spiritual body and enters into the pastimes and tastes rasa. There are 4 ingredients of rasa: Vibhava, Anubhava, Sattvika Bhava, and Vyabhichari or Sanchari Bhava. The mixture of these ingredients produces rasa. Vibhava, the general cause for rasa, is divided into alambana and udipana. Alambana means the root cause, that upon which the rasa depends. It is divided into ashraya, the recipient, who is the devotee, and vishaya, the object, who is Krishna. Udipana, the instigation, is composed of the form and qualities of Krishna, which are realized through constant chanting. Thus, where there is alambana, devotee and Krishna, and udipana, Krishna's qualities, lila and rasa can occur. When the conditions of Vibhava are perfected, Anubhava, external symptoms of internal emotions, appears. These symptoms are all based on pure spiritual love, and can in no way be compared to the symptoms of love in the material world. Gradually, as emotions deepen, Sattvika and Vyabhichari bhavas, or additional symptoms, appear. By the combination of these ingredients, the initial sthayi bhava, or primary mood, of the devotee transforms to rasa, full spiritual flavors. The situation of tasting rasas in the spiritual world is the highest perfection, the ultimate goal of the jiva, according to the scriptures. There are 4 goals for man mentioned in the Vedas: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. These, however, are meant to lead to the supreme goal, or parama purushartha, rasa. One who is truly liberated is qualified for rasa. The path for attaining rasa is as follows. The jiva who has attained faith in bhakti receives a pure Vaishnava guru. That guru gives the Maha Mantra. The jiva will take the mantra either in the form of smarana, remembering the name, or kirtana, chanting the name, regulating himself by counting on tulsi beads. gradually, as his craving for the name increases, he will increase. Of the two forms of taking the name, kirtan is the more powerful, for in that process are combined Shravanam, Kirtana, and Smarana, or hearing, chanting, and remembering the Lord. And by it, the senses of the jiva dance in joy. By taking shelter of any of the 9 processes of bhakti, one progresses in devotion. But of the 9 processes for deity worship, will reach perfection only by also engaging in hearing and chanting the name. But those who have exclusive attraction for the name need only engage in hearing, chanting, and remembering the name. If one executes these 3 processes nicely, all the other 9 processes of bhakti, serving the lotus feet, praying, servitude, and complete self-surrender, can also be easily accomplished. With faith that the name and Krishna are non-different, and avoiding the 10 offenses, the effects of the name will be perceived. By clear chanting and remembering of the name, one will find attraction and joy in the name. Then one will either meditate on a form of Krishna or constantly take darshan of his murti along with one's chanting, delving deeper and deeper into the name. When one has succeeded in realizing the form of Krishna in the name, one will then meditate on Krishna's qualities while chanting. One will meditate on a pastime of Krishna's with the aid of a specific mantra. When all 4 elements become one will begin to perceive rasa in the name. One will perfect the rasa by meditating on the 8-fold pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. Gaining one's spiritual body by the mercy of the Guru, one will enter into the pastimes with the associates of Radharani, and according to the directions of the Sakhis, one will serve Radha and Krishna in ecstasy. This service in the conjugal mood is the most brilliant thing in the spiritual world, and is obtainable by the jiva by the practice of bhakti. There are even higher stages than this, but it is not possible to describe them by mere words. These things will be revealed by the mercy of Krishna. The specific process is now described. To receive a spiritual body in conjugal rasa, one must culture 11 specific items in one's identity, namely, one's relationship, age, name, bodily color, membership in a particular group, dress, order, residence, highest expectation in service, and the protecting gopi under whom one serves. These items are perfected through 5 stages. First, one will approach a guru who has realized Krishna's eternal pastimes and the 11 items in eternal service. Upon hearing the 8-fold pastimes of Radha and Krishna, one inquires how to realize that state. The Guru then describes the 11 items by which one can enter the pastimes. This is called Shravana Dasa. The Guru will then choose the particular spiritual identity of the disciple according to the tendency and attraction of the disciple. If the disciple does not have a natural taste in one Baba, he can request another from the Guru. Finally, one's spiritual identity fits. He vows to the Guru never to give it up. This is called Varana Dasha, the accepting stage. The disciple will then practice remembering his given identity in his heart. This Smarana Dasha, stage of remembering, is divided into 5 levels. First, one tries to remember the 8-fold pastimes, but the mind wanders. This is Smarana. When one's practice becomes steady, it is called Dharana. When one can meditate on all aspects of the desired object, it is called Dhyana. When this Dhyana becomes continual, it is called Anusmriti. When this becomes perfect, it is called Samadhi. If these stages are followed progressively in Smarana, one will quickly come to the stage of Appana, or possession, where the 11 items are realized as one's constitutional state. However, if one is busy making an exterior show, but does not cultivate fixing one's identity within, he cannot perfect this stage. But fixing one's identity is natural, since the jiva has simply forgotten his perfect stage when entering the material realm and body, desiring his own pleasure. And proportionately, as one increases his practice of remembering his natural state, material designation and identification will decrease. One can reach Appana Dasha either from Raganuga sadhana, where scriptural rules are minimal, or through Vaidhi sadhana, where relying on suitable rules from scripture is predominant. If one progresses through the stages of faith, practice, purification, steadiness, taste, and attachment in either Vaidhi or Raganuga sadhana, one then comes to the stage of Bhava, preliminary prema. It is at this point that one attains Appana Dasha. At this stage, beyond the category of sadhana bhakti, when scriptural rules will be discarded as troublesome to one's service, conceptions of Raganuga and Vaidhi will both be discarded. Here, one's identification with the material body will vanish, and identification with one's spiritual body will predominate. In that spiritual body, one will always see Vrindavan and serve Radha and Krishna. This final stage is called Sampati Dasha. By Krishna's mercy, suddenly one's material body, mind, intelligence, and false ego will be cast off, and one will appear in a pure spiritual body, serving Radha and Krishna along with their eternal associates. The jiva can achieve this 5th stage in perfecting rasa by taking the name and becoming purified. Therefore, the jiva with faith should take up chanting of the name seriously and constantly in good association. He will take superior Vaishnava association, avoid material association, and reside away from material glare. by the strength of these three items, he will achieve his position of real glory. Haridas said, I am low, mean-minded, and absorbed in material enjoyment, always refusing good association. Still, I am begging for causeless mercy to progress to the rasa stage of bhakti. Saying this, Haridas fell unconscious at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya said, Listen, Haridas, in the future, people with evil minds will degrade these intimate pastimes, but those who are real devotees will understand the supreme teaching that you have given. Taking shelter of this knowledge and taking shelter of the name, they will chant the name and worship Krishna far away from the materialists. The jiva will attain faith in bhakti through past accumulated sukriti or devotional activity. It is hard for all jivas to obtain bhakti. Lead them on a direct path home. I have come to preach the Yuga Dharma of the holy name. You are helping me accomplish this activity by describing the full truth about the holy name. Bhaktivinoda says, Whoever attains the full nectar of the touchstone of the holy name, worshipping Krishna in spontaneous emotion, has attained full success and full bliss. A worthless rascal, weeping, I hold that person's feet and beg that he distribute the bliss, and let me drink forever just one particle of the nectarian rasa.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
This ends the recording of Harinam Chintamani, Touchstone of the Holy Name, by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It was translated into English by His Holiness Bhanu Swami and published by him. The introductory prayer, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, was sung by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder-director of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and writer of numerous spiritual literatures published by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust in the United States and Australia. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra throughout the text was from the album entitled Bangladesh Yatra 1 and 2. The engineering and mixing of the music was by Neil Schlachter, and the narrator was Amala Bhaktadas. This has been a Krishna Production presentation. We hope you have enjoyed it and pray that this humble offering will in some small way help you to improve your chanting of the Lord's holy name and experience ecstatic love of God. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar